morning, everybody. Welcome to the morning meeting. It's 9 a.m. Eastern Time. Larry, Kevin, and I'm just adjusting my camera. Larry, Kevin, and I are here to guide you through the day, morning meeting style, just like the network news divisions do. Then we'll run through the day book. We'll kick around a lot of stuff related to Iran and other things. And then we would love to have your participation. If you've never raised your hand before, today could be the day. To get a chance to ask Kevin and Larry a question, I wonder what the price of that would be on the open market, but it's free today. Please raise your hand if you'd like to ask them a question. If you're watching on X or YouTube, please no smack in the chat.
I think we need to pay them. I think we need to pay them, Mark, not the other way around.
Yeah, we'll buy you a bubble cuddle blanket for the fifth caller.
All right, Brennan, we'll take $10. That's great.
Yeah. A lot's going on right now, and we're going to start in a moment with the president's Truth Social post. It's kind of incredible. The president's cabinet is meeting later today with the president, right as we go off the air, and I will have live anchored coverage of that on the second hour of the morning meeting on Sirius XM in just a moment. Larry is at CPAC. Larry, just give us a quick CPAC update. Like, how's it going? Do you know more about your panel today, for instance?
How are the vibes? How are the vibes down there?
The vibes are pretty good. I mean, it is crowded. I went to get my credentials and it was packed. So I'll get a better feel actually in the main room today. I had cocktails with Rick Grinnell and Kurt Schlichter yesterday in the bar, and Ben Ferguson crashed our party. That's CPAC, baby, right there.
Two of those three guys like me a lot. That's what I'm willing to say.
Actually, no, I know who you're thinking of, and he likes you too. You just disagreed on something. That's
you're likable enough. You're likable enough to quote to quote Barack to Hillary. You're likable enough. She's back.
It came up last night, Mark, and he's a very loyal and protective guy. You went after a friend of his, and so he just
ironically, Larry, that wasn't the person I meant.
Oh,
I know he likes me. I know. That's Kurt. I know Kurt likes me. We get along great. All right. Quick word from a sponsor, and then we're going to do the day book. Cozy Earth, 20% off everything on the site. Today's the day. Stop what you're doing. Pick up your device that you're not watching the show on, or open up another window and type in. Follow me now. Cozy, COZY Earth, the way you spell Earth.com. And put in the promo code morning, 20% off everything on the site. Buy yourself, or maybe for someone you love, or maybe you need to buy a gift for somebody. Go on and buy something now, and you'll see why Cozy Earth is done so well as a company, why so many people like the stuff, why my house is filled with the stuff, because it's just different. It's really great, well-made, great stuff. Shirts, blankets, towels, pillows, the bedding set, and of course the bubble cuddle blanket. All available to you now at an extraordinary 20% off. Go to CozyEarth.com. Use the promo code MORNIN. Oh, what a beautiful. And buy yourself something today. Discover how care in every detail transforms simple routines into moments of true comfort and ease. CozyEarth.com, promo code MORNING. All right, the day book, gentlemen. Again, all centered around the cabinet meeting. Here's the president's schedule. He's in executive time right now. And what he's doing is watching the morning meeting, and he's saying, I'm going to crib from these guys about what to say at the cabinet meeting at 10 o'clock. Again, live anchored coverage.
God help us all.
The second hour of the morning meeting here on Sirius XM. He makes remarks at 4 p.m. Eastern in the East Room to the Greek Independence Day celebration. Hopefully some of those will be in current Greek and some in ancient Greek. And then he has some signing time in the Oval at 4:45 p.m. closed press. But the cabinet meeting, let's do it now, gentlemen. Over under. How long will the cabinet meeting last from the first word till the press gets kicked out? How many minutes will it be? We've had some go more than 3 hours, I think, and some lately shorter. Kevin, how long will the cabinet meeting be?
2 hours. And I was going to ask you, do you think that AI robot is sticking around for the Greek Independence Party too? Today?
Or for the cabinet meeting? Wouldn't it be awesome if
robot should just introduce every event?
It would be awesome.
It was pretty wild.
It would be awesome if the press was allowed into the cabinet meeting and Marco Rubio sitting on one side of the president and the robot on the other. Larry, Kevin says 2 hours. I know you're going to take the under.
A little under though, but not.
He always takes the under. Larry always he does the prices right. He does the prices right rules right there
because it's the under. Absolutely. Yeah. I'm guessing. Let's say about 105 minutes.
Got to assume J.D. Vance is at the cabinet meeting, but don't know what else he's up to. Lots going on at the Hill. They're still grappling now with what to do about DHS. They're still grappling with the Save America Act. They're still grappling now again with the filibuster that we'll see in a moment. The president today said they should get rid of the filibuster. And They're also dealing with, how do you pronounce the name of this member of the House? Sheila Sherfilis McCormick? How do you pronounce that? I meant to
Yeah,
ask.
I just say
before we
McCormick.
start.
I just use the
Yes.
last of
Anyway,
the
this
two.
Democratic congresswoman is the House Ethics Committee is considering a hearing for her. House is going to vote on another DHS funding bill. The Senate's going to try again on the Save America Act. No one thinks that's going to succeed. So there's a lot of activity up there, but not clear they're getting anything done. CPAC Day 2 today. Amongst the featured events, a gentleman named Larry O'Connor is on a panel about new media. Nicholas
Big if
Maduro.
true. Big if true.
Big if true. Nicholas Maduro and his wife are in a New York federal courtroom today for a status
God.
conference on his trial. No
I thought they were
cameras
coming
there.
to CPAC for a second there. The way
Yeah.
you were transitioning,
Yeah.
it's like, wow,
That'd be
that's quite a
good.
get.
The jobless claims report came out, and again, I meant to check on that. What were those numbers?
Didn't see.
Anybody have those numbers? The jobless claim numbers? Somebody
Didn't
will
see.
shout
It'll be
them.
adjusted.
Somebody
now.
will shout them out.
They were
All right.
200,000 flat. Pretty good. Everybody's happy.
That's a healthy
Everybody's happy. That is a healthy number. Okay. Happy days are here again. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we start with President was on Truth Social this morning, right before the Today Show started. I use that as a traditional benchmark. He had two posts, one on the filibuster, but the more important one for the purposes of our conversation here occurred at 6:39 Eastern Time, 1:03, please, when the president posted this. And gentlemen, I'm going to want to break this down like it's the Talmud, the Rosetta Stone, and a note from your spouse. The Iranian negotiators are here's the president now. The Iranian negotiators are very different and quote unquote strange. They are, quote, begging us to make a deal, which they should be doing since they have been militarily obliterated with zero chance of a comeback. And yet they publicly state that they're only, quote, looking at our proposal. Wrong, all caps, exclamation point, trio. They better get serious soon before it is too late, because once that happens, there is, all caps, no turning back, and it won't be pretty, exclamation point, President DJT. Larry, break this down. What is he trying to do with this post?
Well, I mean, no turning back in caps really does stick out, doesn't it, Mark? I think what he's trying to do is move the ball along here a little bit, especially in light of my guess is he was probably watching, Morning Joe or something, and somebody snarkily predicted that there weren't even real negotiations going on, and they believe Iran when they're denying it, and so he decided he wanted to fire back there and double down and reassert that yes, these negotiations are going down, and he's giving some inside information as to how they're happening, and I think it's obvious what's going on here. We know that there are more troops moving into the area. The next mew of Marines are almost there. We just heard that he was calling in airborne. And I think, as we've discussed before, when he commits this kind of hardware and manpower, he uses it. And he said that, you're hitting your deadline. You make your decision, accept our deal, or the next phase happens.
Kevin, we don't really know.
I'm not being too clever there, am I? I mean,
well,
it is
Kevin,
what
we
it
don't. When he made the previous threat, it was about obliterating their energy infrastructure. We don't really know what other targets exist. They could hit civilians, I suppose. But what do you if the Wall Street Journal? I'm sorry, Axios has a story that says the Pentagon is developing kind of an end game option that involves massive strikes, even more massive than we've seen, as well as potentially boots on the ground. What do you think the president means with that threat?
Listen, I think he's going full throttle, right? And I think there's timing pressure on him. The Wall Street Journal has that piece that, he's somehow looking at winding this down. He's telegraphed that a little bit. But to Larry's point, it also could be a head fake with the amount of resources, not just there already, 50,000 plus troops, but the initial forces that are heading to the area as a head fake to Tehran. You also have the Israelis stepping up their attacks even more so. They took out the head of the Republican Guard Navy. It was seemingly also thinking that timing is of the essence here and getting as much done in these next couple of hours and days to really topple the regime to some more degree because of the question of when we actually do wind this down.
Can I just, I don't think we can underestimate the election results that we discussed yesterday that occurred Tuesday in a couple of surprising locations where Democrats did very well. Because of all of the things going on in the Senate right now with TSA, Homeland Security, and the Save America Act, the president has been more than normally engaged with leadership in the Senate. They're talking a lot. It's going back and forth, and I think he's getting some pressure. I think there's a little bit of pressure on him. It's like, all right, we got to move this ball forward faster. And there are reports that he's telling his military leaders, we got to have the end game in sight here. And I think some of that is coming from his own party, who really do want this resolved sooner rather than later. That's based on. That's
and we're
my
coming up
pulse.
on that month.
I-
We're coming up
I
on that month
fixated
right
on-
now.
yeah. I have to say, I think the Wall Street Journal has transformed itself in terms of coverage of what kind of stuff we talk about here into the best newspaper in the country. The Washington Post, of course, is disintegrated, but they've passed the New York Times. So I say, with great respect for what Emma Tucker has done, I thought their story today was kind of ridiculous. Britt Humes pointed this out. What's his name? Byron Yorks pointed out. There's nothing in the Journal story they attribute to private conversations that he hasn't said in public. He's been saying we got to wind. He's been saying we got to wind this down. He's been saying, it's going on long enough, but it could still go on another month. Actually, let me just run through a few other things.
But do you think, Mark? Do you think
yeah.
it going on a month? Obviously, you talked about it earlier in the week. The new dates for the China summit in, I think it's in mid-May now.
May 14th.
So that's going to be driving a lot of that. I've got to imagine, right? In terms of timing on all this. They can push it back again, but
exactly the date for that summit is set in stone as the first date, and the Chinese haven't even announced it yet. So I don't think. I think everybody involved thinks it's going to be over by mid-May, but I don't think it means it can't go longer. Let me just run through things. Kevin mentioned this one, 104. Times of Israel reports Israel has killed another top Iranian official, the guy who was in charge of closing the Strait of Hormuz. That's a good one to get, and they vow to get others. Here is 106, please. Tehran issues a warning to regional neighbor if Iranian island is occupied. A lot of reports, Axios and my reporting and others, that they may try to take either Karg or another one of these strategically important islands. And the Iranians are saying if that happens, that the Iranians would strike back at vital infrastructure in the regional country, presumably Saudi or one of the Gulf states. Here is the Iranian foreign minister in an interview. This is courtesy of Reuters. Yesterday saying there are no negotiations. 107, please.
Again with the no negotiations.
No negotiations have taken place so far. I state firmly that there has been no negotiation or dialogue with the American side. However, in recent days, the American side has begun sending various messages through different intermediaries. Messages being conveyed through our friendly countries, and us responding by stating our positions or issuing the necessary warnings is not called negotiation or dialogue. It is simply an exchange of messages through our friends.
Okay. Sorry, getting text by a good source. Eric Erickson agrees with me that the president's varied rhetoric on what's going on is all done on purpose. I'm with Mark Halpern. Eric tweeted, I think regime change has always been the plan, and what comes off as cavalier winging it, etc., is an administration that does not trust Congress and does not leak, and a president who says all sorts of stuff to keep people off bounds. To that point, there was briefings on the Hill yesterday for armed services members on both sides of the aisle, and immediately after that, Alex Ward, the very good Wall Street Journal national security reporter, tweeted this. 109. At least 3 congressional Republicans, including chairs of the House Senate and House Armed Services Committees, are hinting strongly that a ground operation in Iran is planned and could potentially be underway soon. So they go up to the Hill. They suggest there might be boots on the ground, and right away, three members, including 2 chairs, say stuff that reporters interpret as this, and that's why the White House, in part, why the White House doesn't brief anybody up there.
Yeah. To be fair, though, I mean, you're right, of course. But first of all, what does ground operation mean? We've been saying for a couple of weeks now that there could be targeted specific missions that Marines are sent in to do, and then they come back to their amphibious assault vehicles. So it's not, a ground operation does not mean invasion. A ground operation does not mean occupation.
Absolutely.
And Mark, people have been that's the worst kept secret in town. People are saying it all the time that that's an option that they're prepared to do. Of course.
Well, there's option and there's imminent. And again, I believe
Right. Coming on the heels of the briefing
I believe the track we're on is imminent. Although again, it won't surprise the Iranians if it happens. They watch the 2-8 at night in the morning meeting. They read the reports of all the people going there. Now let's just get one thing clear about boots on the ground, Kevin. If there's 200 Marines on the ground, how many boots on the ground are there?
400. Even though I was
thank you.
I was more of a verbal guy on the SAT.
Yeah, but you asked that. That's my point.
But Mark, to your point,
I think there'll be fewer than 1,000 boots on the ground initially, I believe. Kevin,
do you think that is part of this thinking around regime change, that in order to do it, you actually need some kind of physical? You can't bomb your way to regime change.
Well, I think you can't bomb your way to opening the strait, which gotta happen. I think there's 3 things boots on the ground can do right now: open the strait, get the nuclear material, regime change. And I don't think they'll be involved in the third one ever, because that would take hundreds of thousands. That's not going to happen. Yeah, but tens of thousands can do the other 2. Larry, what about Congress? Is you saw both chairs, really both chairs, but particularly the House particularly the House Armed Services chair, being pretty tetchy yesterday and saying we need more. They sounded like Nancy Mace, who also complained yesterday. Is the White House on the precipice of having a problem with the Hill, whether it's over not briefing enough, whether it's over $200 billion request? Is there a Hill problem brewing, not amongst the Democrats, but amongst the Republicans?
I think there is, as I alluded to earlier. I think the president is hearing from members of the House that they're getting pressure from their districts. People are getting we're getting closer to election day. We're getting closer to the summer. A lot of stuff that we're supposed to be waiting for, they're supposed to kick in and help Republicans, haven't kicked in yet. And this is weighing things down. And so I don't think it's going to be such a problem that they're not going to get, if they need anything, that they're not going to get what they need. But I think that there are concerns on the Hill right now about the trajectory right now. And I think that's part of why the president said what he said on True Social.
Yeah, Kevin, as you know, there's 2 sort of fundamental truisms about politics. And one is Tip O'Neill, all politics is local. And the other is, I tweeted this moments ago, live by Harry Enten, die by Harry Enten. Republicans have loved tweeting Harry clips lately about, Harry saying various things that they like. Well, Harry this morning showed the Fox News poll and said, this war is unpopular. This war is making the president less popular. And the president's handling of the war is unpopular. Here's a bit of the Fox poll 116. Again, Fox poll came out last night, consistent with every other public poll and private poll that I know of about how Americans feel about the war. And so here it is: current military action, U.S. military action is ground. Do you support or oppose the current action? All voters, 42% support, 90% of Republicans, of MAGA Republicans, 77% of all Republicans. Again, putting a lie to the notion that MAGA is less supportive or MAGA is wavering. But amongst independents, 28% support the war. Yeah. Yemisi and I talked about this last night, Kevin. Obviously, as Larry suggested, this reflects why some Republican members are getting restive, because they're hearing from their constituents. If all they care about is their MAGA constituents, maybe they don't care. But if they've got a district that's at all split, Kevin, does the president have a meaningful public opinion problem now, or it doesn't matter because he's not going to care about the polls and he thinks he can end the war before it matters?
Yeah, he sure does. And Mark, you made the point, and it's right that don't look at the Republican and Democratic numbers, right? Anything the president does, Republicans are going to support, Democrats are going to attack. But the fact that he's underwater by 58 points on the handling of the war with independents specifically, I think is giving not this administration pause, James Blair, Susie Wiles, the people responsible for the president's politics, but also those congressional folks too that Larry just mentioned. And there's some uneasiness certainly with those numbers, and it's a Fox poll. The fact that he's also, it was 50-50 when the war started. Now it's -16. That movement is really with independents, not Democrats or Republicans. Like I said, they're in their silos when it comes to this. But that independent movement, I think, is problematic, certainly for this administration.
I think there was so much focus at the beginning because of Tucker and because of Megyn and because of Bannon. There was so much talk about a splinter in MAGA, and we kept seeing these polls that said, no, MAGA's fine, that they took the eye off the independence numbers. That independent number has been dropping consistently over these 4 weeks. And but from the president's perspective and from the administration's perspective right now, Kevin and Mark, nothing succeeds like success. And
Yeah.
they believe that they are on the brink of a historic, game-changing, globe-changing success. And when they get that, everything gets fixed.
Bad gets worse, good gets better,
Yeah.
to quote a wise man.
Yeah. All right. I'm just mindful of the clock because we got a lot to get through here. Where's
you need to
where are
stop
the
asking such
where's
pointed and provocative
yeah
questions.
where's the price of Brent and where are the Dow futures now? I meant to ask that, which is to say someone's supposed to send me that, but I don't see it. Maybe
We only
it's
care
something-
about those Brent numbers.
Yeah.
I thought it
Where's-
was like 105.
Where's,
Sorry,
where's,
I don't want to
where,
speculate.
where are the Dow futures on
Dow
10 minutes to the
futures
open?
are down 334.
Okay, that's not great. And
It's
oil?
not great. And Brent is at 107.
I want to
Okay,
say.
so there's news stories today about how maybe the Arab countries that have pledged billions in investment will pull back in the U.S. And there's great concern about we're reaching the tipping point, not for our allies and semi-allies in Asia and Europe and about the impact on their economy, but we're reaching a problem for here's the Politico headline about the investment. Iran war threatens Gulf U.S. investments. But there's a journal story that says we're reaching a tipping point where this is about to start having a real impact on the American economy. And then there's the security lines. We see this everywhere. We're going to talk later in the program about air safety and air traffic control. But Twitter's filled with this, local news, network news filled with this. My inbox is filled with this, of people sending me pictures of it. And there's still no end in sight. If you look at what's going on the Hill now, Democrats are accusing the Republicans of not negotiating correctly, and Republicans say Democrats moved the goalposts. I think Steve Dane said they didn't move the goalposts; they took them out of the stadium. Punchbowl floated a bunch of options, including maybe Thune and Schumer just sort of work it out. But do either of you, we talk about this regularly, but do either of you see a solution to this at this point, or they're going to go on a 2-week break and leave the long lines in place?
I can't imagine they go on a 2-week break without some semblance of solution here. And I don't know what that is. Punchbowl also reported that, in addition to Schumer and Thune having these side conversations, you're having kind of rank and file members, Katie Britt, who's the leader in the Senate on the subcommittee for this, and like Josh Gottheimer and a few other kind of moderate Dems trying to figure out a solution too. I think, when mom and dad can't agree on something, you see the kids try their hand, and we'll see if anything comes of that.
Yeah.
It's a very dangerous time because, Democrats benefit by misery right now. Democrats benefit by chaos and misery, and they've been able to cause quite a bit of chaos and misery with this gambit that is relatively unprecedented, to not fund one department and let it get shut down, especially something so critical as Homeland Security. And as was discussed yesterday, I mean, I'd like to think that they're close to a resolution, but Democrats seem to say that they're intransigent. They won't budge because they think they're winning. And while they're winning, they're causing misery because the misery is their way of winning, Kevin. I mean, I'm sorry, but that's just the truth.
We talked about this. We talked about this 40 days ago, right? I'm not a big proponent of using, when Republicans do it, to affect policy change, whether it be the border wall or what we're seeing here. You don't threaten the full faith and credit, pretty much, our ability to keep the government open to enact policy change. I think, but again, that's the only leverage Democrats have, and they feel, as Mark and we've talked about this early on, that the polling is still on their side when it comes to ICE. I don't know if that's still the case. I don't know if we've actually seen more recent polling, but initially when it started, they felt emboldened.
I will never understand the president's continued insistence that Republicans scrap the filibuster for whatever he cares about that day, because they're not going to. Here he is this morning on Truth Social, 1:13, right around the time he posted about the Iranians negotiations. He says, when is enough for our Republican senators? There comes a time when you must do what you should have done a long time ago, and something which the lunatic Democrats will do on day one if they ever get the chance: terminate the filibuster and get our airports and everything else moving again. Also, add to complete all 5 items, Save America Act items. Go for the gold, President Donald J. Trump. Getting rid of the filibuster to do voting reform is maybe something that could happen or should happen in the view of many. But getting rid of the filibuster to fund DHS, that would be a nuclear option. Truly, I don't understand why he's doing it. Let me just
I
run
do.
through. Yeah,
I
go
do.
ahead.
I think it's like a
he-
catch-all now, seemingly, for
If
everything.
you look at the Truth
To your point,
Social
Mark.
timeline, you'll see that right before or right as he was tweeting that, he also shared an article, an op-ed written by Senator Ron Johnson at Daily Wire that basically said all of that. I think the headline is, "I've seen enough.
Right.
Time to end the filibuster."
I get what pissed him off, but
Yeah.
Thune does not have the votes to get rid of the filibuster for anything, let alone passing a funding bill. And all that's going to happen is there's going to be more anger at John Thune. Why is that in Donald Trump's interest? Thune's not going to resign and be replaced by Ron Johnson, who's going to have the votes to get rid of the filibuster. I don't understand when presidents call for things that are not going to happen and will be an embarrassment to their own party. I don't understand that. I don't understand what good he thinks he's doing.
Well,
But here's the problem. Here's the problem too, Mark. Democrats are doing the same thing. When we put out that 10-point plan in terms of how we want to reform, and we don't get those 10 points, which we're not going to get, we're not in power. It's the same thing in terms of expectation setting and letting both sides down.
Except
our base
that when
is
you're in the
down.
minority, it serves you, as I said, because it actually for Republicans, we'll turn on our leadership if they don't at least try. Democrats are continuing. I mean, they're trying. That's the thing. Democrats are actually taking a gambit and showing that they're doing something. And it looked like for a year they weren't doing much of anything. Republicans, voters want to see our leadership doing the same thing. And the one thing that it serves, Mark, is that the president, like he always is capable of doing, he's reflecting what the voters want. It may not make sense in Senate language, but in terms of just being in touch with what the base wants and what voters want to get done, he's speaking for us, and that it's a good thing.
I hear you, but every president I've ever covered, regardless of party, they lose when they pound the table and demand something that's not going to happen because of their own party. They lose every time. It's just there's no upside to it. I'm going to throw off the sled China and Russia. Ironic because they're the two biggest stories in the world. Lots going on with China and the summit, and a Wall Street Journal story that says leans into the notion that Trump's ready to make a deal, a macro deal that gives Taiwan away, which has been around for a long time now, and Russia, which continues to secretly help Iran, how much we don't know, and Zelensky talking very negatively about what's going on. We'll throw all that off the sled. Two final political things, and then to your questions, comments, please raise your hand if you want to get in. New Emerson College poll on the Maine Democratic Senate primary. For those of you who think that Mr. Plattner would be a sitting duck for Susan Collins, you're about to potentially see that happening. This public poll is consistent with the few other polls there have been. Here it is, ladies and gentlemen, the new numbers from the Maine Senate race. Plattner 55%. Wow. Janet Mills 28%. Now I don't know, a margin of error could be 15 points, and it's still. It's still be Plattner's.
It says plus minus 4.2.
Now, let's say, when is that? Somebody remind me when the primary is.
June 6th, June 9th.
I think it's in June.
Okay.
Yeah.
So it's March 26th. So let's say we get to let's say we get to May 10th, and Plattner still has a lead like this. What does Chuck Schumer do, Kevin? No, seriously, what does he do?
It's a good question.
Because just to be, I'm sorry to interrupt, but just to be clear, Mills has already said negative ads against Plattner, all of which can be used in a general election. They're not attacking him from the left. So do Democrats in the Schumer operation spend every dollar destroying their likely nominee? Sorry, go ahead.
No, just change out the disclaimer at the end from Janet Mills to Susan Collins. To your point, Mark. The interesting thing too has been this race has seen more defections in terms of Chuck Schumer's colleagues endorsing Plattner. Martin Heinrich just the other day of New Mexico in a way that we haven't seen in other races that are contested. Similarly, obviously the Texas one. So you're seeing a good number of Senate Democrats lining up behind Graham Plattner, and I think they put pressure on Schumer to just cut our losses there and say if this polling is such with a massive double-digit margin for Plattner, this is the guy we're gonna run.
Larry, what does Chuck Schumer do?
I think Kevin's right, and he knows the players better than I, because I'm smart enough to listen to Mark Halpern's analysis on this, and the fact is this is the hill they have to die on in Maine. They don't get Chuck Schumer does not become majority leader again unless he wins Maine. And so if Plattner is going to be that dominant, he's got to back him, right? I
Can-
mean,
And he's
Can-
raising
can-
the money too.
can-
He's raising
can-
the money. It's
Can
extraordinary.
Plattner beat Collins?
no, but he doesn't have a choice. That's
Kevin,
that's where the fight is.
I haven't seen Graham's sneakers, so I don't know in terms of if he's got a new pair too.
Yeah.
But I think it's more difficult. But also too, Janet Mills is like 107. God love her, and not super popular, leaving the governorship. So who knows who's the better candidate?
People keep comparing this to the Republican situation in Texas, where it's like, oh gosh, the base wants Paxton, and then he's the less popular candidate, or he's not going to win in the general.
It's a great parallel, actually. Yeah,
it's not though, because James Tallarico is not Susan Collins.
Exactly.
Very true. Very true. Very true.
In 1,000 ways, including he's not an incumbent. And again, guys, it's hard to beat a Senate incumbent, ladies and gentlemen. Here's more.
She has incredible staying power, Susan Collins. We've spent hundreds of millions of dollars trying to take her out.
And guess what? Mainers love her. If you ask anyone,
keeps coming back. Yeah.
Here's more bad news for Chuck Schumer from the polling folks at Emerson. New Hampshire poll in the Senate race shows John Sununu tied with Chris Pappas. 45-44.
Hold on, I didn't see that. I saw it
just
like
came out.
2 points.
45-44. That's tied because I know how margin of error works. And I'm telling you, I make Sununu the favorite in that race. I know everyone in New Hampshire says a Republican can't win a federal race, but I'm telling you, Sununu he's a great candidate, and Pappas is untested at this level. So I go back to saying I'm not ready to say that Republicans have a better chance of gaining Senate seats than losing the majority, but it's getting pretty close to that because I still don't see how they get the majority. If they can't beat Susan Collins and if they lose the New Hampshire seat, of course they're not taking the majority.
It's a must-win in Maine to flip it, and it's a must-hold in New Hampshire.
And keep your eye on Michigan, by the way. Just saying. Michigan's been trending.
I agree.
They could lose that one.
And if they get a bad nominee there too, the Democrats, they'll be in trouble because the Republicans have a good candidate. Okay, ladies and gentlemen, the Democratic is the last item, and then we'll go to your questions. Please raise your hand. The Democratic Party of New Hampshire used to have, as a lot of Democratic states did, a Jefferson-Jackson annual dinner. Now they've got the McIntyre-Shaheen dinner. I know who Shaheen is. Who's McIntyre? I don't
know McIntyre. I know they've called it that for a while.
I'm sure I'm embarrassing myself. Anyway, annual dinner this year. It's in Nashua, April 25th. Usually you have somebody, because it's New Hampshire, who's thinking of running for president. Well, this year, ladies and gentlemen, the keynote speaker at the Democratic Party of Michigan's McIntyre-Shaheen dinner. Sorry, I need to continue my windup. New Hampshire, even though the DNC hasn't said yet what the order of the calendar is going to be, New Hampshire will go first, even if they're sanctioned. And
by state law.
Sanction's an interesting word, right? It can mean approved. It can also mean penalized. In this case, I mean it as penalized. Even if they're penalized, they will go first. And Democrats have been beaten down the doors to speak in New Hampshire. That is a plum assignment. Anyone running for president would want the keynote address to the party faithful, the Democratic Party. And this year's speaker, drum roll please, will be Hillary Rodham Clinton. Kevin, what's the name of the guy?
Ready, rested, raring to go.
Ray Buckley is the
Ray Buckley, the chairman, longtime chairman.
I think Ray may be the longest tenured Democratic state chair in the country. I believe that's true. What is Ray Buckley thinking? Why is Ray Buckley giving that slot to Hillary? Because he doesn't want to give it to a real candidate, or she might run?
Potentially, I don't think she's running, but she's still a huge draw, and she'll put some markers down in the sand. When she's out of power, I think actually she has more support from Republicans. Funny enough, when she's in power, they don't particularly care for her. But it's a huge draw, and she's still one of the leaders of the party, and intellectual leaders of the party. And I think she also wants some retribution after all the depositions recently and stuff like that. She wants to, in a high-profile way, lay into the administration.
One more Emerson poll, Larry. Democratic presidential candidate poll of New Hampshire. Democrats and independents leaning towards voting in the 2028 Democratic primary. The front runner is at 20%. Larry, who is that?
Kamala?
Pete Buttigieg.
Is it
Buttigieg?
I knew he was.
This is what Mark has been saying. This is what Mark has been saying.
Thank you, Kevin.
That's a very good state for him. Absolutely.
Then there are two candidates, Kevin, tied at 12. Who's that?
Gavin's one of them, and maybe
Shapiro.
AOC.
AOC.
A-
Shapiro's
AOC.
at 4% right now.
Then Mark Kelly 10, Kamala Harris 8, JB Pritzker 5, and a whopping 24% undecided.
I think
All right,
Shapiro's at 4 right now in that poll too.
Yeah.
Right now.
That's awful for Shapiro.
I got Shapiro.
Yeah,
we're working on it. We're working on it.
He hasn't spent much time there. All right, a quick word from a sponsor, then to your questions. Please raise your hand if you'd like to be in on the conversation. And I'll say Mark Halperin's wardrobe provided by Fairway and Green. Fairway and Green will give you a discount. Go to twoway.tv/fairway and buy yourself some nice morning meeting or two-way paraphernalia today. And lastly, our friends at Upside want to give you free money. Download the Upside app right now. It'll show you where it can be used. It can be used at supermarkets, gas stations, and restaurants across the country, over 100,000 participating locations. And if you want to make some extra money, there's no catch here. The app's free. Using the app's free. It's not about points that you can cash in. They send you cash back, and you don't lose any of the benefits you get from using your current credit card. Just stop draining your budget, gas, groceries, and dining, and participate. They give out $1 million a week to participants who use the app, and they've given out over $1 billion total. Go to your phone right now and download the Upside app and get some free money and more free money. Your first time you fill up your gas tank and use the Upside app, you get 25 cents back on every gallon of gas you purchase through the app. So go to the Upside app today and give it a try. Again, Upside, promo code MARK, to get that extra quarter back on every gallon of gas you purchase. All right, ladies and gentlemen, time for your questions. Wendy, welcome in. Tell folks who don't know where you are and what's on your mind for Kevin and for Larry, and thank you for being part of Two Way.
Hi, Wendy.
Hey, Wendy.
Hi, guys. I'm not watching live in the morning much because it's a little early here in Minnesota, but I've got things to do today, so I was ready to go. I have 2 questions for you, and I'm glad you brought up the Senate races, okay? First is, Mark, I watched a lot of your stuff, a lot of your Two Ways and Next Up, and you guys aren't discussing Minnesota with an open Senate seat.
Yeah.
I just want to mention a couple of
point.
things going on here. We've got Penny Flanagan, extremely far left. Her ads show her in a hijab, and her ads show her with a kifa, blah, blah, blah. Running for the Democrat ticket against Nancy Craig. So those two are equally fighting each other very negatively, like what's going on in May. And on the Republican side, we have what I believe is 2 extremely strong candidates in Michelle Tafoya with the great name recognition. She's all over the place. I've been to a lot of her things. And also a guy by the name of Adam Schwartzy, who is a Navy SEAL, Christian conservative.
Wendy, hold on 1 second. That was a good summary of the field. Larry, thoughts on whether we should be talking about Minnesota as a race that could be in play?
Well, it's an interesting race, and Wendy did a good job of breaking down exactly, how fascinating the candidates are and how each of the 2 from each party represent sort of the various factions. But I love Michelle Tafoya. I think she's got a great chance, but Minnesota is just such a tough one for Republicans. It doesn't seem like it's one of the ones that's on the playing field right now for control of the Senate.
Kevin,
but it could be if the 2 can't. I mean, if the Democrats end up with your lieutenant governor as the nominee, all bets are off.
Yep.
I was just going to say, I really like Angie Craig. I've known her for a long time. Peggy Flanagan is pretty far out there. Wendy, to your point, I actually, and this might hurt Michelle in a Republican primary, but I actually like Michelle. I've done her podcast a few times, and I think, to your point, she's very compelling. Obviously, she's perfect for television, perfect for communicating to voters. And I do fear if Flanagan gets the nod, that it might be more difficult for Democrats in that state. Let's also not forget, Minnesota was the closest state in terms of a state that we won in 24. I think it was 2 or 3 points, right? But also, I don't discount Ken Martin's organizing abilities. He's gone 25 for 0, even though he's running the DNC now. There's a strong Democrat DFL party in the state.
And don't discount the fraud controversy.
That's right.
And whether Republicans can ride that. Larry, did you have one more point on this you wanted to make?
It just occurred to me, too. It's so funny, Wendy, and thank you for bringing this up because it's such an interesting potential in Minnesota.
We need Wendy for midterms next up.
Or at the very least to help Mark with show prep. It should have been in there, Mark. Flanagan, knowing how, if I may speak on behalf of many of my colleagues in conservative, right of center media, talk radio, and podcast streaming, Ms. Flanagan, Lieutenant Governor Flanagan, is the exact same the kind of candidate that we like to use as a representation of the entire party nationwide. If she ends up being the nominee, we will point to her as indicative of the party in every race across this country, and that could be a very powerful thing for us. So,
and real quick to Larry's point, the good thing that Democrats are doing are expanding the map, right? Even if we come up short, asking Republicans to spend more money holding seats that should automatically be theirs, whether it be Alaska, Iowa, maybe even Montana. If Democrats have to spend serious resources in Minnesota, that hurts us across the board.
Yep. Wendy, I apologize. We're gonna have to skip your second one. I apologize just because we're short of time. And there are two things I forgot to do.
Great points though from Wendy.
Yeah, very good points, Wendy. Thank you for that. And again, Montana Senate race, Nebraska Senate race. There's other races that could come into play that aren't on the top 9, but they're probably not going to decide the majority control.
It's going to be amazing. This is the place to be every morning for these discussions, because between now and November, it's going to be phenomenal.
Yes,
Amen.
sir. 2 Polymarkets I wanted to share with you. Back to Iran. I meant to do it earlier and I forgot. First, 110, please. Will the U.S. invade Iran by March 31st? If you believe the Wall Street Journal, that could happen. March 31st is 5 days away. 19% chance of boots on the ground somewhere in Iran in not special forces. Kevin, that seem high to you, low to you?
Again, to Larry's point at the outset, and it's a very good one. The president, if he's moving resources, he's telegraphing what we're doing. I think there is going to be some element on the ground, whether it be nuclear, to your point, Mark, or a Karg or other places.
Yeah. So the second,
I just don't like the word invade. Invade.
Yeah.
It's a bad.
The second one is about Karg 111 that will Polymarket, and again, Axios and others are pointing to other islands that could be where the U.S. boots go. But the question for Polymarket is, will Karg Island no longer be under Iranian control by April 30th? So that's a month and a few days. 1/3, 33% chance. Thoughts on that, Larry?
I've been bullish on this. I think I kept it at 50-50, unless there's some sort of settlement. If there's not a settlement, then I would move it up to sooner than April 30th.
Yeah.
But listen,
Kevin?
Mark, the Iranians certainly think something's going to happen on Karg as they're moving, what little resources they still have, whether it be, shoulder fired missiles and things like that, thinking that there is an invasion at play on that particular island. So,
well, and that warning, if any of our territory is invaded, we're going to hit the infrastructure of our neighbors. If they could do that, they would have done that already, right? I mean,
and they've tried
typical,
to, right?
Typical
to your point,
point.
especially hitting gas, oil, and gas resources over there.
Yes. Let me just check the clock here. Okay. Brennan, I'm going to bring you in quick, but you got to be super quick, and I apologize. If you can ask a quick question, that'd be great.
It's in response to the things you've been saying, Mark, about the assassinations and the decapitation strikes. I just want to put out there that this is a past honored American tradition, going back to the Revolutionary War. It was a era-defining tactic when we started sniping the British officers to confuse the line troops. So it's only a difference in scale, not a difference in kind, what is going on now. And that's all I wanted to say, to be quick.
All right. Okay. Thank you for that, Brennan. Kevin, thoughts on that? We're a nation that's assassinated folks.
It's a very good point, and not just covert assassinations, but also coups too, right? In places, and there's a long history, especially in Iran, with us doing that same thing, where we've tried to take out the leadership and install different leadership, whether it be through assassination or through some kind of military coup or propping up a regime. So we have a long history of it.
I'm old-fashioned. I think if you try to assassinate our president, we're allowed to assassinate your Ayatollah.
Brendan, thank you. Just reporting now that despite previous White House denials, that Bill Maher is going to get the Mark Twain Prize from the Kennedy Center, which is one of the great events every year in Washington, really in the whole country. And it'd be interesting to see what happens. All right.
Trump Kennedy.
Say again? Trump Kennedy. What did I say? Trump Kennedy honors. Yeah.
And Larry, you were just with the former head of it the other night, Ambassador Grinnell.
Yeah. All right.
He's technically still in charge. He's just fading out right now.
A lot of focus at airports right now on TSA, of course, and there's a safety component to that. But there's also questions about air traffic control, and of course, in the aftermath of the horrible accident at LaGuardia that still isn't completely explained, people are wondering about just how safe is it to fly now regarding the FAA and air traffic control. Joining us now to run through data is our friend Richard Kaufman of USA Facts. USA Facts is a great thing if you don't get their newsletter or go to their website. I recommend it to you. It's a way to be part of the discussion on the National Town Square, informed by data, well presented, in a timely fashion. You won't get it anywhere else. And Richard's going to talk to us about what's going on with the FAA. Richard, welcome in. Thank you for being here.
Thanks, Mark.
Always love when Richard joins us to keep us honest.
Yeah.
Kevin, Larry,
Yes.
great to see you both as well.
So Richard, what's the status of the FAA, or what kind of shape are we in there?
Yeah, after this terrible plane crash this week, and thinking back to the American Airlines crash last year, the UPS flight that crashed, we really felt compelled amongst these just horrible tragedies, and our hearts go out to everyone involved to really try to understand the data behind the issue. And so we started by looking at the FAA. What was interesting to us was just seeing that the FAA, according to their numbers, about 40% of air traffic control centers are understaffed. Which
40% are understaffed,
right? There's
Wow.
varying degrees, obviously, but 40% are understaffed, and that seems like we're not going to pass judgment, but something that just on the surface feels concerning. At the same time, we felt like we had to look at also safety, and so we looked at how safe really is air traffic or air transportation compared to other forms of transportation. And on the next slide, if we want to go to it, I think it's pretty clear that air travel is still the safest form of transportation that we have out there.
And just for those of you listening, to the show, this is a great chart. And again, it's
Really
government
is.
data. This is what USA Facts does. You say, on the one hand, understaffed, but then motorcycles, bus, car and trucks, rail transit, railroad, all are motorcycles easily less safe, but all less safe than air travel, which is practically, the safest thing you can do. It seems like you're almost safer on a plane than walking around an urban city.
You probably are. I mean, we
Yeah.
didn't look at that on
Yeah.
this chart, but absolutely. I mean, when you look at injury rates per 100 million passenger miles traveled, it rounds down to zero. So it is safer than most other forms of transportation.
Yeah.
Amazing.
So, Richard, drill down for us, because I know you've got some other data on specific venues, specific airports, and what the air traffic situation is there.
Yeah. So this number that they use to really understand whether or not something is staffed or not, they look at an ideal level of staffing and say if you're below 85% staffed, then you are understaffed. And so about 40%, like I said, are understaffed. About 10% are under 75% staffed. These are the least staffed airports, if you will, that you can see here. Some smaller ones: Grand Forks, North Dakota; Rochester, New York. Then you see ones like Oakland, right? The Memphis TRACON, which these are these centers that look at air traffic around the airport, not the tower itself. These are you can see that there are some pretty significant airports that are understaffed.
What about the granddaddy of them all, Atlanta Hartsfield?
Atlanta is above average. It is well, it's right at average, but the TRACON is average. The tower is right above average. That doesn't change the long lines at TSA that we've been hearing about this week, but certainly it's right average.
All right. And so in the end, this is about staffing. Even though air travel is very safe, it'd be great if the government could actually reach the levels we're supposed to reach. So how does that get solved?
Yeah, I mean, they've been looking at a bunch of different ways to try and improve staffing at airports, year-round hiring, faster training, doing things called supercharging the controller hiring process, making it easier to train people. So they're working on it, but certainly we're a little bit behind in terms of air traffic control staffing.
This is great.
And this
and walk us through this one.
Yeah, this chart's interesting. It's particularly interesting to me. This is air traffic controllers on the top, the number, and these are flights on the bottom. And the thing that's wild about this is if you think about it, air traffic controllers can take a certain number of flights per hour, and so as the number of flights go up, the number of air traffic controllers should go up. And so in an ideal world, these charts would look exactly the same, and it's pretty obvious they don't. The number of air traffic controllers has gone down since 2016. It is we have actually reached our pre-pandemic levels, which is good. There was a lot of news around COVID about us losing air traffic controllers. But the fact is we're about, 1% higher in air traffic controllers since COVID and about 3% higher in flights. And so definitely trending the wrong direction when it comes to number of people in charge of the flight safety versus number of flights that are happening.
All super interesting. Thank you. I don't read the chat, but I glance at it. And even though Richard has visited with us before, people are asking, Richard, explain what you do at USA Facts and what USA Facts is again, please.
Yeah, great. So USA Facts, we are a nonprofit, nonpartisan organization that just helps make government data accessible to people. We were founded by Steve Ballmer about a decade ago with the intent of just helping people understand the data that we pay for as taxpayers. And so that's what we do every day. We just take it, visualize it, and make it easier for people to use.
And what do you do? What do you do there?
I'm our head of research in government relations. So I work on everything that we do with government partnerships and everything that we do in terms of what the information actually says.
And how often do you churn out content?
Yeah, so we put out articles about 3 or 4 a week. We put out a weekly newsletter every Monday. Sign up at our website, and we put out videos about once every month or so.
All right, pop John Thune up real quick on Fox. Let's just see what he's saying. He's talking about the Schumer and the face-off, but let's just see what he's saying about that.
In circles. I mean, I think there's a lot of chaos. I think they're really confused. I think they've got a crisis of leadership in the Democrat conference right now, and they've got all these different people, as you've seen them, going out in different directions saying different things. So we're trying to narrow it in and home in on a deal that we can strike here in the next, hopefully in the very near future.
What would motivate Schumer and Jeffries, the Democratic leaders, to finalize this? Because in some ways it feels like from a PR perspective, they must not think that they're losing.
Well, I think that's true, and I think for them it's all about politics, and it always has been. You go back to the fall shutdown, the Democrats shut the government down, the whole government down for 46 days last fall, and if you remember Chuck Schumer's statement that every day gets better for us, and then you have Brian Schatz, a member of the Democrat leadership, and this shutdown saying we are very serene. I think they're just playing politics with this, have been from the beginning. They think it's really good with their base. Their left-wing base won't take yes for an answer, and so the Democrats are having a hard time taking yes for an answer. But they're going to have to, because at some point people are realizing that it is the Democrats who are blockading and have been blockading funding the Department of Homeland Security now literally for 46 days. So this has got to stop. It needs to stop now. I think they're going to come to their senses. I hope they do, because if they don't, it's going to get really ugly out there. Will the Senate go into recess before this is resolved? I think it's very hard to take off if we don't have DHS funded. Obviously, we're looking at optionality in terms of what it would take if we have to be here, but one way or the other, we have to get
cots on the floor.
Is the president making your job
Bring in the pizza?
Okay, all right, cut this off. Richard, sorry for the interruption. Just to go back, just summarize your point of view. So having projected all that data out there and presented it and shared with us, what's your sort of summary point of view about where we are currently and going forward on TSA?
Yeah. Well, on TSA, I would say that we need to I think probably end the shutdown and get them paid. On the air traffic controllers, I would say we're kind of headed the wrong direction. We need to do some work to make sure that we are staffing our air traffic control centers properly, but at the same time, flying is still very safe.
You see how elegantly Richard handled that? I said TSA when I meant air traffic control, and he just gracefully handled the whole thing.
On top of all of our minds at the moment.
Yeah, Richard, one more time, tell folks if they want to get access to this data as well as your data generally, where can they go?
Yeah, come visit us at usafacts.org.
Yeah, if I could just say it's such an invaluable tool, and I use it for my show prep and my research. And I guarantee the cool thing about what USA Facts does, Mark, is that this is the data that the leaders and decision makers are using as well. I interviewed Transportation Secretary Duffy early on in his tenure, and he actually all these numbers that Richard is sharing with us are from 2024. These are the numbers that this administration inherited. Duffy pinpointed that TSA number, or excuse me, now I'm doing it, the air traffic controller number early on. And if you remember right, he actually started an initiative to try to get on a hiring binge there for air traffic controllers and upgrade all of the systems that have been woefully neglected. And he's doing that based on the same data that is made available to you through USA Facts.
I want everybody to be able to see those charts. So I'm talking to Michael, my colleague now. Let's make sure those go in my Substack, and let's make sure either I tweet them out or Richard tweets them out and I retweet them. But everybody should see those. They're just spectacular charts. Richard, thank you for making time. Thank you for joining us. Grateful to you.
Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Richard.
Thanks, Kevin.
Okay. So a few things. I'm going to step over to SiriusXM in a moment and leave you in Larry and Kevin's hands to finish. But a few things I want to say before I go. First of all, thanks to all of you for being part of Two Way. In the second hour of the morning meeting on SiriusXM channel 111, Megyn Kelly channel, we're going to have live coverage that I'll anchor of the president's cabinet meeting. So join for that. And then after that, taking your questions. So give me a call if you want to be in on the conversation there. You think I'd know my phone number, 833-446-3496. It'll be on my Twitter feed as well. Tonight, and again, normally I'd leave this to Larry and Kevin, but tonight on Two Way tonight, my guest for the hour will be Britt Hume. I worked with Britt at ABC News, and he's just spectacularly smart. He's just such a great journalist, and of course we'll have a lot to talk about. So I'm looking forward to everybody joining me tonight at 5.
And he really calls balls and strikes too. If you follow him on Twitter and stuff like that, he
does.
calls out the
He does.
administration on things, calls out Democrats obviously, but that's going to be a great conversation.
Iconic hero. He's great.
He's spectacular. And tomorrow is Friday. Are you guys on tomorrow? I should know.
We
that
are.
too.
We are. Sorry to say.
No, happy to have it. So
We need you give Hillary Clinton a drum roll, but not Larry and I.
Full,
But you know,
if I'd known you for sure, you're on. We'll have full coverage of Larry's panel. Larry, maybe we'll show clips tomorrow. I got to tell you something Michael Smerconish did, which I think we'll play on Two Way tonight because I didn't have time to send it in. So in my newsletter that I write, the concierge coverage newsletter, I did a stream of consciousness of Trump, of what Trump was thinking about the war. And Michael Smerconish got, I'm now blanking on the guy's name. The guy's the best Trump impersonator. The guy with the beard.
Oh,
you know what I'm
yeah.
talking about?
Sean,
whatever,
Sean.
that guy.
Yeah.
Anyway, he got that guy to read part of it. And it's awesome.
That's
it's just
great.
it's so funny. Anyway, going to play that on the show too. Hopefully, maybe I'll play it here tomorrow. Thanks to you, gentlemen. I appreciate it. I'm jumping over to SiriusXM. I'll see everybody there, and I'll see everybody at 5:00 tonight. And well, I want to ask you this: we did the over/under in the cabinet meeting. What will the headline of the cabinet meeting be, Kevin? What's he gonna make?
A warm reception from Mark Wayne Mullen.
Yep, that's what I was going to say. Yep, Mark Wayne Mullen, welcome to.
All right. One more prediction. Which cabinet member will speak the most at the cabinet meeting? Who will log the most time?
Ooh, that's a good one. RFK?
I'm going Rubio.
My money's on Doug Burgum.
Doug Burgum's a good one.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going Rubio if he's there. Rubio is supposed to be in Europe tomorrow.
He's supposed to be at the G7 that starts today in France. Yeah.
Is it start today? Well, maybe it won't be
Yeah, it
Rubio.
starts today.
Rubio's not there.
Yeah.
I don't read the chat. I glanced at it. Deborah says Besson. Of course, the answer is Scott Besson.
Oh,
there could be an announcement at the cabinet meeting about oil. That's all I can say currently. But I'll see you over at SiriusXM 111. Thanks again to Richard and USA Facts. Thanks to you guys. Larry, over to you.
Thanks, Mark. All right, let's do
Thanks,
it.
Mark.
All right. So, all right, Dad's gone. Let's get comfortable.
Dad's gone.
Hang on, take off the blazer. You know, we can get a little unplugged now. Don't have to be quite as formal. He has a very formal dress code, Mark does, especially when he's eating pancakes in front of us, right?
True. It's very true.
With all of the things that we say on this program, you can see my light all of a sudden. With all the things we say on this program, Kevin, and all of the, dangerous ground that we tread, and all of the potentially controversial political positions.
A lot of pitfalls.
The most controversial thing that's happened on this show is Mark Halperin eating pancakes and drinking out of a 2-liter Diet Coke bottle. It's incredible.
The chat was very active.
Still is. They're still talking about it on
Yeah.
YouTube. Every day they talk about it on YouTube. So
we give you authenticity. I'll tell you what. I'm drinking my Diet Mountain Dew. I promise you, I am a Democrat. Drinking Diet Mountain Dew this morning from Florida this morning. But
before we get to the rest of the promos, so because I'm at CPAC, and harrowing to know that the two-way team is going to be watching my panel, so I'm going to watch what I say, and clearly I'm going to have.
Can we watch it live? Can we watch it live?
Oh yeah, you can
is it live stream? Okay. What time is that panel?
Conservative.org. I think my panel is 4:30 Central.
Okay, so 5:30 Eastern.
This Central time thing is screwing me up.
It's the worst.
Come on, Texas.
Yeah.
But the big buzz around CPAC right now already, and really it just started like an hour ago. This is CPAC starting in earnest now, is the straw poll. Last year it was a no-brainer. JD Vance was the #1 pick for 2028.
It'll be really interesting.
I gotta tell you something, and it's no slight to JD Vance because they still love him, but Rubio's star has shot up so much in the last year, and he has exceeded expectations. They asked me to predict on my radio show this morning, and I said I think Rubio's going to win it. What a headline!
Wasn't that straw poll was like instrumental early on with President Trump too, right? I mean, that was
absolutely
that kind of came out, and I mean, I think he spoke to the group, but it kind of shocked everybody that he was up there in terms of that base electorate.
And you sort of assume that the CPAC crowd is sort of the mega basey kind of grassroots people who are coming out, so you figure it's leaning in JD Vance's favor. But I got to tell you, Rubio has done more to sort of build up that trust level with Trump's base than I've seen any politician do that has.
He's navigated that so gone,
considering where they were.
From little Marco on the debate stage to now, besties. It's kind of wild.
So keep an eye on that. That straw poll is going to be remote.
All right. So 4:30 Central, 5:30 Eastern, CPAC with Larry on the stage.
Yeah, but
we'll all be watching.
I might be moderating the panel, so that I don't know how much I'm going to be, but I'll do my best. I'll do my best to try to make everybody proud here in the two-way community. And then do you have anything upcoming, Kevin, until tomorrow morning?
I'll be reporting tonight. I'm flying back from Jacksonville, Florida. I was down here for a conference, spoke on a panel yesterday. So we'll see how the airport situation is down here, trying to come back to Charleston tonight. So fingers crossed.
Oh, at least that's a short little flight. That's from Jacksonville Airport, did you say? Or
Jacksonville. Yep.
All right. Well, that's a very short flight. All right, good. The group chat live is today at 4 p.m. Emma Jo Morris and Nina Turner will be joined by guest co-host Nancy Rommelman and Democratic strategist Dante Mills. Do you know Dante Mills?
I don't, but I'm excited to. It's always a great conversation to watch.
They're going to discuss today's hottest topics, as they always do on the group chat, and answer questions from you, the two-way community. You just heard two-way tonight is going to be must-watch with Mark Halperin and Britt Hume, the legend Britt Hume.
Britt Hume.
Evan and I will be back tomorrow with our winners and losers of the week and what we're looking for. And that's it for us.
If you haven't hopped over to Sirius, do that. Also, too, obviously, Professor Kenny with co-host today, Deborah and Alan, two-way faves, hosting the post-game show at 11. Chat opens for that at 10. So you got Sirius, you got the Trump cabinet meeting, and you got the official after show at 11 with Professor Kenny and the team.
And I'll be live at noon with my town hall show that I stream every day, noon Eastern, at whatever video platform you're watching us on right now. Thanks, everybody. And
a lot with us the rest of the day.
A lot going on.
Stick with us.
Honestly, just don't forget to order food from Uber Eats so you can actually, because I don't want you to go hungry. Thank you very much.
And winners and losers tomorrow. And it's always great to hear from community members on Twitter or on X, where have you, what you all think from this week as well. And maybe, send those our way.
Maybe tomorrow, when Dad leaves, we'll let Haley in because she does like to come here after Mark leaves.
As long as she's not smoking. We
can't
endorse that.
We think of the children. Bye.